Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen. Let me first of all express my deepest condolences to the victims, the loved ones of those killed and injured, and the people and delegation of France. The time is very gloomy. Mr. Chairman, a year has passed since I last addressed the Permanent Council in the names of the Parliamentary Assembly. In addition to the ongoing conflict in Ukraine, we are now faced with the other crises, as you well know. Allow me to address some of the challenges we face today from our perspective. What should we do in general, and what should the role of the PA be in particular? First, the situation in Ukraine, which has been the top priority for the OSCE. I had a good opportunity last week to see with my own eyes the situation on the ground. I have to say that it was a little bit surprised by the contrast between the image and the reality. The threat here is that the great challenges and suffering that is still part of the everyday life for so many Ukrainians will be pushed aside by others' imminent threats we face. Yes, the truth is that ceasefire has been largely holding, as the saying goes today. But at the same time, the trend is worrying. One of the key issues in order to bring more stability and normality to eastern part of Ukraine is, of course, border control. In a longer perspective, it is imperative that Ukraine gains control of the state border. In the meantime, there should be a stronger role for the OSCE to mitigate the negative effects of the situation at hand. In this context, I call on all the OSCE participating states to work towards, firstly, ensuring full access to the SMM monitors towards the borders, and secondly, to strengthen the empire of the border mission that exists today. On building confidence, let me say that postponing central provisions of the Minsk agreements is not necessarily a deal broker. What matters most is getting there as soon as possible without any further delay. In this context, I would like to commend the efforts of the Serbian chairmanships as well as Ambassador Sadic for doing their utmost in order for this to happen. It's highly unfortunate that Ukraine was unable to administer elections last month in all of Ukraine. While I welcome the decision of the illegal separatists to postpone their own so-called elections, it is clear that unless elections take place under Ukrainian legislation in accordance with the Minsk agreements and observed by the OSCE, those elections will not be considered legitimate and constructive. All the OSCE participating states have a responsibility to support this position. Coming back to my own visit to Donetsk region last week, I would like to see that situation in the areas not controlled by the lawful and central authorities. So unfortunately, given the current circumstances, it was not possible. Nevertheless, and especially with winter approaching, I call on the separatists to allow all aid, especially humanitarian aid, into the areas they currently hold. This would be for the benefit of the population as well as being the major confidence-building measure. Despite the serious challenges, I do believe that there is also cause for optimism today for the situation in the East. That is due in no so small part to the OSCE's efforts in facilitating the withdrawal of the light weapons. To be sure, all of us are hoping for and working towards the full withdrawal of the heavy weapons also. In this respect, I cannot stress enough the importance of all sides to provide full access to SMM monitors to do their job. What the Parliamentary Assembly has done in responding to the situation in Ukraine. As I have already indicated, the Assembly continues to execute one of its most valuable roles in the OSCE, fostering people-to-people contacts through our representative membership. We also continue to raise a clear voice on Ukraine in our annual declarations, including our recent Helsinki Declaration. It is an ambitious document reflecting the voice of the OSCE area's elected officials and the people represent. The PA also continues its work to promote dialogue between Ukrainian and Russian parliamentarians, as the core value of the Parliamentary Assembly is, of course, that communication must continue. We have organized some of the only direct talks between Russia and Ukrainians MPs since this crisis began, and plan more in the nearest future. Dialogue is and should be the key word that should not be forgotten when we consider the ways in which our organization should be reformed and renewed. When I last addressed you, we are anticipating the 20th anniversary year of our founding document, Helsinki Final Act. I believe that the PA has contributed significantly to the Helsinki Plus 40 process, producing an excellent report with concrete recommendations on what this organization should do to stay relevant and effective. I just will highlight just a few recommendations that it makes. The participating states should reaffirm in a Ministerial Council declaration the significance of and their respect for all 10 principles of the Helsinki Final Act and identify concrete mechanisms for putting into practice the commitments undertaken. That could possibly be through the development of binding code of conduct for the OSCE participating states in most problematic areas. There is a need for more, not fewer, OSCE field presence with multi-year budgets and mandates. As an example, I and many of my colleagues urge reopening the OSCE missions in both Azerbaijan and Georgia. The crisis of migrants and refugees is clearly one of the biggest challenges facing Europe today. And not just Europe or the EU, but the OSCE area as a whole. We can and we must do more as an organization to help not only to find policy solutions, but also do more to help on the human level. From border management to the treatment of minorities, to means of promoting human rights and tolerance, the OSCE has many tools at its disposal that can be used in these crises. Let me also note that in our Helsinki Declaration, parliamentarians called upon the participating states of the OSCE to improve mechanisms for coordination and cooperation of immigration policies. The parliamentarians of the OSCE area, of course, are eager to debate this crisis. I look forward to presenting more forward-looking ideas to ministers gathered in Belgrade. A few words on terrorism and spread of radicalism. In the past several months alone, we have seen a serious inhumanity of terrorists and the scars they have left on the OSCE area and its people. There was a horrible attack on the peace rally in Ankara. The terrorist atrocity brought down a plane flying from Egypt to Russia, and of course last week's brutal and indiscriminate attack in France. Our Helsinki Declaration highlights the need for countries to improve their legislations and do more to cut off the financing of terrorism, among other steps. The OSCE is perfectly positioned to help countries better coordinate their anti-terrorism efforts and help implement best practices. Our collective security is very much at stake. As you certainly know, the PA no shortage of recommendations for the OSCE and its participating states. We need to support the amendment to the 2004 Gender Action Plan with concrete, actionable items that promote equality in the OSCE area. 3 words: women, peace, and security. There's the continued need to intensify cooperation between the OSCE Parliamentary Assembly and the OSCE executive structures. I'm convinced that the OSCE PA can further contribute to the OSCE's work across the conflict cycle. This year is not just the 40th anniversary of the Helsinki Final Act, but a year of many landmark anniversaries. It is the 70th anniversary of the UN Charter and the 20th anniversary of the Dayton Accords. We should consider how our work in the OSCE supports and can do better in supporting the best of both documents. And of course, this is also the 25th anniversary of the Charter of Paris. The Charter called for the establishment of the PA as an OSCE institution and affirmed the place of democratic values and human rights at the center of this organization. Marking this anniversary and recommitting to the Charter is just as important as doing the same for the final act. democracy, and human rights are never finalized projects and must always defended. Finally, a word on elections. As you know, the OSCE parliamentarians play a vital role in the organization's election observation missions. The technical and analytical expertise that ODIHR provides is complemented by the political judgment and expertise that elected parliamentarians bring to bear. We, the OSCE parliamentarians, try to play a visible and large role in making the OSCE work known to the world. Our cooperation with ODIHR has gotten better and better all the way, and we must continue to stand together in refusing to accept restrictions placed in our election monitoring. Many OSCE participating states have a long way to go on meeting their OSCE commitments. But our door remains open always to constructive communication in this respect. With that, I'd like to thank you very much, all of your attention, and I look forward to seeing you soon in Belgrade. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.